The alarm bells rang through the deep space station like thunder. Hanna jumped from her chair and ran to the main computer. She had been watching the dark space between stars for 3 years. Nothing ever happened out here. Nothing except ice rocks and old metal from broken ships, but today was different. The computer screen showed lines of light dancing up and down. These were not normal space sounds. This was a message, a real message from somewhere far away in the galaxy. Hanna's hands shook as she typed commands into the computer. "Command Center, this is Hanna," she spoke into her radio. "I have something big here." The voice that came back sounded tired. "What is it this time, Hanna? Another broken satellite?" "No, sir. This is a real signal. From deep space. Very deep space." Hanna could hear chairs moving and people talking in the background. Then a new voice came on the radio. This voice belonged to Commander Yu Jinsu, the man who ran the station. "Hanna, send everything to my office right now. Do not talk to anyone else about this." For the next 6 hours, Hanna worked with the station's best computers. The signal was very old and broken. Parts of it were missing. But slowly, word by word, she put the message together. What she found made her heart race. The message was a cry for help. But not from Earth. Not from any human ship or station. This message came from aliens. Real aliens from faraway worlds. And they were dying. Hanna printed the message and ran to Commander Yu's office. He was a big man with gray hair and serious eyes. He had fought in the Mars War 20 years ago. Nothing scared him. But when he read Hanna's message, his face went white. "Are you sure about this?" he asked. "Yes, sir. I checked it 10 times. The signal came from the center of the galaxy, from something called the Galactic Council." Commander Yu read the message again. It said that 17 different alien worlds were under attack. Billions of aliens were dead or dying. The enemy was something called the Void Reapers. These creatures moved from star to star, eating entire worlds. But the strangest part of the message was at the end. It mentioned Earth. It said Earth was a far world with unknown fighting power. It asked for help from any world that could fight. "They know about us," Commander Yu said quietly. "The aliens know about Earth." Within 2 hours, the message was on its way to Earth Command. Admiral Park Minho got the call while he was eating dinner with his family. He was the head of Earth's battle fleet, the strongest military force humans had ever built. Park left his dinner and drove to the command center in the capital city. The building was tall and made of black metal. Inside, hundreds of people worked day and night to keep Earth safe. But tonight, they were all staring at screens showing Hanna's message. "How old is this signal?" Park asked the chief science officer. "About 6 months, sir. It took that long to reach us." Park felt sick. 6 months ago, aliens were crying for help. And only now did humans know about it. How many had died while this message traveled through space? General Kim Yuna, the head of Earth Defense, came into the room. She was small but strong, with sharp eyes that missed nothing. "Admiral, we need to talk." They went to a private room where no one could hear them. On the wall was a map of the galaxy, with small lights showing where humans had been. The lights covered only a tiny corner of the map. "Park, this changes everything," General Kim said. "We are not alone. We never were alone." Park nodded. "The message talks about a galactic council. These aliens have been watching us, but they never made contact." "Maybe they thought we were too dangerous," Kim said. "Humans do fight a lot." Park walked to the window and looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there, aliens were fighting for their lives, and for some reason, they had asked Earth for help. "General, how fast can we get a message back to them? Even if we sent a signal today, it would take 6 months to reach them. By then..." She did not need to finish. "By then, the 17 worlds might be dead." Park made a decision that would change human history. Get me Fleet Commander Cho Hyun-woo. Wake up every ship captain we have, and call the president. Sir, are you thinking of sending ships? I am thinking of sending our entire fleet. Within hours, every important person on Earth knew about the alien message. President Song Min-ji called an emergency meeting of the World Council. Representatives from every nation came to the capital. The meeting room was full of angry voices. Some people said humans should help the aliens. Others said it was too dangerous. Earth had only just started traveling to other stars. The farthest human ship had gone was 50 light years from Earth, but the alien message came from thousands of light years away. We do not even know if our ships can travel that far, said the representative from New Tokyo. Our weapons might not work against these Void Reapers, said another. Admiral Park stood up. The room became quiet. Everyone knew Park had fought in every major space battle for the last 20 years. If anyone understood war, it was him. Friends, I have read this message many times. These aliens are not asking us to save them. They are asking us to try. Even if we fail, even if we die, at least we tried. He pointed to the star map on the wall. For 300 years, humans have looked at the stars and wondered if anyone else was out there. Now we know. And they are dying while we sit here and talk. President Song raised her hand for silence. Admiral Park, if we send our fleet, how many ships would you need? All of them, Madam President. Every ship we have. The room exploded in angry voices again. Send the entire Earth fleet? Leave Earth with no protection? It was crazy. But Captain Jang Tae-hyun of the battleship Defiance stood up. He was young, but had already won 3 major battles against space pirates. I volunteer to lead the first. Wave, he said. My ship and crew are ready to go. One by one, other captains stood up. Captain Lee Byung-hun of the cruiser Thunder, Captain Moon Ji-hoon of the carrier Eagle, Captain Oh Seung-hoon of the destroyer Lightning. Soon, half the room was standing. President Song looked around the room. These were Earth's best fighters. They were ready to fly into the unknown to save aliens they had never met. The vote will be tomorrow, she said. Tonight everyone should think carefully. If we do this, there is no going back. But Admiral Park already knew what the vote would be. He had seen it in the eyes of his captains. Humans might fight each other, but they would not let innocent beings die without a fight. Earth was going to war. The morning sun rose over Earth's capital city as President Song Min-ji walked into the most important meeting of her life. The World Council chamber was full of people from every nation on Earth. They had all come to decide one question. Should humanity go to war for aliens they had never met? Song sat at the center of the large round table. To her right was Admiral Park Min-ho, still wearing his Blue Fleet uniform. To her left was Defense Minister Kim Yoona, who had not slept all night, reading reports about Earth's military strength. Before we vote, Song said, I want everyone to understand what we are talking about. Admiral Park, please tell us about our fleet. Park stood up and walked to the big screen on the wall. Pictures of Earth's warships appeared one by one. There was the battleship Defiance with its heavy plasma guns, the carrier Eagle with 200 fighter ships inside it, the cruiser Thunder with missiles that could destroy asteroids. Earth has 120 warships, Park said. These ships were built to fight pirates and protect our colonies. They were not built for a war across the galaxy. How far would our ships have to travel? Asked the representative from European Federation. About 4,000 light years, Park answered. Our fastest ships would need 6 months to get there. And that is if nothing goes wrong. Worried voices filled the room. 6 months was a long time. Anything could happen in 6 months. The alien worlds might already be dead. Earth's fleet might arrive too late to help anyone. Minister Kim stood up next. She was known for being very careful and thinking about dangers. I have been looking at our weapons and shields. Our technology is different from what the aliens describe. We do not know if our weapons will work against these Void Reapers." "What do you mean?" asked the representative from African Union. "The alien message talks about bioships, living ships made of meat and bone. Our weapons are made to fight metal ships. We might shoot at these creatures and do nothing at all." More worried talking filled the room. Some people started saying this was too dangerous. Earth should stay home and protect itself. Let the aliens fight their own war. But then Captain Jang Tai-hyun asked to speak. He was the youngest captain in Earth's fleet, but he had already proved himself in battle. "I have been thinking about this all night," Jang said. "Yes, this is dangerous. Yes, we might die. But think about what the aliens said in their message. 17 worlds are under attack. Billions of people are dying." He walked to the center of the room. "If aliens came to Earth tomorrow and found us under attack, what would we want them to do? Would we want them to stay home because it was too dangerous? Or would we want them to try to help?" The room became very quiet. Everyone was thinking about Jang's words. Defense Minister Kim shook her head. "Captain, your heart is in the right place, but my job is to keep Earth safe. If we send our entire fleet away, who will protect our world? What if these Void Reapers come here while our ships are gone?" "That is exactly why we should go," said Fleet Commander Cho Hyun-woo. He was an older man who had been fighting in space for 30 years. "These creatures are moving from world to world. If we do not stop them out there, they will come here. Eventually." Admiral Park walked back to the screen. "I want to show you something else. Our science team studied the alien signal all night. They found something interesting." A new picture appeared on the screen. It showed the path the alien signal had taken to reach Earth. The signal had bounced off several dead stars and passed through empty space where planets used to be. "These empty spaces used to have worlds," Park said. "The Void Reapers already destroyed them. They are moving in our direction." The room was silent now. Everyone understood what this meant. The war was coming to Earth whether they wanted it or not. President Song looked around the table. "We will now hear from each region. European Federation, what is your vote?" The European representative was a woman named Dr. Sarah Chen. She had lost her brother in the Mars War. "We vote yes. We cannot let entire worlds die without trying to help." African Union, yes. Our ancestors fought against slavery. "We will not let others be enslaved by these creatures." Asian Alliance, yes. Honor demands we help those who cannot help themselves. One by one, every region voted yes. But the vote had to be unanimous. Everyone had to agree. The last vote came from the representative of the American Republic. He was an old man who remembered the nuclear wars of the 21st century. He understood the cost of fighting. "This is the hardest decision I have ever made," he said. "If we do this, thousands of our people will die. Our ships might never come home. Our families might never see their children again." He stood up slowly. "But if we do nothing, we will have to look at ourselves in the mirror every day, knowing we let billions of innocent people die. I vote yes." The room exploded in cheers and cries. Some people were happy, others were scared. But the decision was made. Earth was going to war. President Song hit her desk with a small hammer to make everyone quiet. "Admiral Park, how long do you need to prepare the fleet?" 48 hours, Madam President. "But I want to say something first." Park walked to the center of the room again. "This will not be like fighting pirates or rebels. These Void Reapers have destroyed civilizations that are thousands of years older than us. They have weapons we cannot imagine. Many of our people will not come home." "Are you saying we should not go?" asked someone. "No, I am saying we should go with our eyes open. This is not a movie. This is real war against a real enemy. But there is something else." Park smiled for the first time that day. "Humans have something these other civilizations might not have. We have been fighting each other for thousands of years. We know war. We understand sacrifice. And we do not give up. Captain Jang stood up again. Admiral, the Defiance is ready. To go right now. My crew has been loading weapons and food all night. Same here, said Captain Lee Byung-hun of the Thunder. My ship can leave in 6 hours. Soon, dozens of captains were standing up. They all wanted to be the first to go. They all wanted to save the aliens. But Admiral Park raised his hand. We go together or not at all. 120 ships. Every weapon we have, every fighter pilot, every Marine. If we are going to do this, we do it right. President Song stood up. Then it is decided. Admiral Park, you have command of this operation. Take our fleet, save those worlds, and bring our people home. Park saluted the president. Yes, Madam President, we will make Earth proud. As the meeting ended, people began making phone calls. Families had to be told that their sons and daughters were going to war. Factories had to make more weapons and supplies. News reporters had to tell the world that humans were no longer alone in the galaxy. But in the military command center, Admiral Park was already working. He called his best officers to a meeting. They had 48 hours to prepare for the biggest military operation in human history. I want every ship checked twice, Park told his officers. Every weapon tested, every supply box counted. We will not get a second chance at this. Commander Cho Hyunwoo looked at the star maps. Admiral, what if the aliens do not want our help? What if they think we are invaders? Then we will have to convince them we are friends, Park said. But first, we have to get there alive. Outside the command center, Captain Jang was already talking to his crew on the Defiance. These men and women had followed him through asteroid fields and pirate battles. Now he was asking them to follow him across the galaxy. I will not lie to you, Jang told his crew. This mission might kill us all. If anyone wants to stay on Earth, speak up now. No one will think less of you. The crew looked at each other. These were engineers and gunners and pilots. They had families and friends on Earth, but they also had something else. They had duty. Captain, said Chief Engineer Han Kyung-min, where you go, we go. That is what crew means. Weapons Officer Yu Ji-won nodded. Besides, someone has to keep you out of trouble. Jang smiled. This was why he loved his crew. They could joke even when facing death. Across Earth, the same conversations were happening on every ship. Families were saying goodbye, engineers were loading weapons, pilots were checking their fighters. In 48 hours, Earth's entire battle fleet would leave on a mission that might save the galaxy or might doom them all. 6 months later, Captain Jang Tae-hyun stood on the bridge of the Defiance and stared at something no human had ever seen before. An alien world was dying in front of his eyes. The planet was covered in blue oceans and floating cities made of white coral. But black ships hung in the sky above it like dark clouds. These ships were not made of metal. They looked like giant insects with wings and claws. They were shooting red beams down at the cities below. Captain, said Navigation Officer Bae So-young, I am reading millions of life forms on that planet, and they are all in danger. Jang had traveled 4,000 light years to get here. His fleet of 120 ships had followed him across the galaxy. Some ships had broken down. Others had gotten lost, but 95 Earth ships had made it to the Altair system, and they had arrived just in time to watch an entire world burn. Communications. Try to contact the planet, Jang ordered. Communications Officer Park Dong-hyuk worked at his controls for several minutes. Then his face went white. Captain, I am getting signals from the surface, but they are not normal radio signals. They are some kind of water-based communication. Water-based? Yes, sir. These aliens might live underwater. Jang looked at the planet again. Most of the surface was ocean. The floating cities looked like they could move up and down in the water. The aliens down there were not like humans at all, but they were still dying. Admiral Park, this is Captain Jang. He spoke into his radio. The enemy is here. They are attacking the planet right now. Admiral Park's voice came back from the flagship Indomitable. "How many enemy ships?" "About 300, sir. They are much bigger than our ships, and they look like they are alive." Yang was right. The enemy ships moved like living things. They twisted and turned in ways that metal ships could not move. Some of them had what looked like eyes. Others had tentacles that reached out toward the planet. "All ships, this is Admiral Park," came the voice over the radio. "We did not come this far to watch. All ships, attack pattern Delta. Show these things what humans can do." The Earth fleet moved forward like a pack of wolves. The human ships were smaller than the alien bioships, but they were faster. And they had something the bioships did not expect: crazy human tactics. Captain Jang aimed his ship directly at the largest enemy vessel. "All weapons, fire everything we have." The Defiance's plasma cannons lit up the darkness of space. Blue and white energy beams struck the bioship's side. The creature screamed. Jang could actually hear it scream through space, which should have been impossible. The bioship turned toward the Defiance like an angry animal. It opened what looked like a mouth and shot red lightning at the human ship. "Shields at 60%, called out Engineer Han Kyung-min. "Return fire, all missiles." 20 missiles flew from the Defiance toward the bioship. But instead of exploding against its skin, the missiles seemed to sink into the creature like it was made of thick mud. "Captain, our weapons are not working." "Right," said Weapons Officer Yu Jiwan. All around them, other human ships were having the same problem. Their weapons were hitting the bioships, but not doing much damage. These creatures were not like anything humans had ever fought. But humans were good at adapting. Captain Moon Jae-hoon of the carrier Eagle had an idea. "All fighters, launch now! Get close to these things and find their weak spots!" 200 human fighter ships poured out of the Eagle like angry bees. They were too small for the bioships to hit easily, and they could get close enough to see what these creatures really were. Fighter pilot Lieutenant Shin Woo-jin flew his ship right up to one of the bioships. What he saw made his stomach turn. The ship was covered in what looked like skin, and underneath the skin he could see things moving. "These things are not just alive," he reported. "They have smaller creatures living inside them." "Then we need to cut them open," said Captain Jang. He aimed his ship at the bioship's underside and fired his plasma cannons at maximum power. This time, the blue energy cut through the creature's skin like a knife. Green blood poured out into space. The bioship screamed again and started to fall toward the planet below. "That's it," Admiral Park called out. "Concentrated fire on their undersides. Cut them open." The battle turned in favor of the humans. Ship after ship, the Earth fleet found ways to hurt the bioships. Captain Lee Byung-hun rammed his ship Thunder directly into a bioship's head. Captain Oh Sung-hoon used his destroyer Lightning to herd 3 bioships together, then hit them all with missiles at the same time. But the humans were taking damage too. The bioship's red lightning was powerful. The cruiser Storm exploded when its shields failed. The destroyer Hammer lost its engines and started spinning out of control. "This is Commander Yu Ji-won," came a voice over the radio. "My fighter is damaged. I'm going to ram that big one over there." "Negative," Captain Jang called back. "Return to base." "Sorry, Captain. Someone has to keep you out of trouble." Jang watched in horror as Yu's fighter flew straight into the largest bioship. The explosion lit up space like a small sun. When the light faded, both the fighter and the bioship were gone. But there was no time to mourn. More bioships were coming up from the planet's surface. These ones looked different. They had thick armor and bigger weapons. "Admiral, we have a problem," reported Captain Bae So-young from the scout ship Swift. "I'm reading more bioships on the far side of the planet. Hundreds of them." Admiral Park made a quick decision. "All ships, fall back to the asteroid belt. We need to regroup." But Captain Jang had a different idea. "Admiral, request permission to continue the attack." "Captain, we are outnumbered 10 to 1. "Yes, sir." "But look at the planet. Park looked at his screens. The bioships that had been attacking the planet were pulling back. The red beams had stopped firing. The floating cities were no longer burning. The aliens down there are still alive, Jang continued. If we run now, these creatures will finish them off. Park was quiet for a long moment. Then he made a decision that would change everything. All ships continue the attack, but stay close together, help each other. The Earth fleet charged back into battle. This time they worked as a team. When one ship was in trouble, two others would come to help. When a bioship tried to surround a human vessel, the other ships would attack it from behind. Engineer Han Kyung-min found a way to make their weapons work better. Captain, if we set our plasma cannons to a rotating frequency, they cut through the bioship's skin much easier. Do it! And tell the other ships! Soon, all the human ships were using the new weapon settings. The bioships started falling faster, but they were learning too. They began working together like a hive mind, surrounding human ships and attacking them from all sides. The battle raged for 6 hours. Both sides lost many ships, but slowly the humans began to win. They were smaller and weaker, but they fought with a fury that the bioships had never seen before. Finally, the remaining bioships began to retreat. They gathered together in a large group and flew away toward deep space. The Altair system was free. Captain Yang looked at his bridge crew. They were tired and hurt, but they were alive. Damage report. Hull breaches on decks 3 and 7, reported Engineer Han, but we can fix them. Casualties? 12 wounded. No deaths on our ship, sir. Jiang was lucky. Other ships had not been so fortunate. The fleet had lost 18 ships and over 300 people, but they had saved an entire world. Captain, said Communications Officer Park Dong-hyuk, I'm getting a signal from the planet. The aliens want to talk to us. The main screen showed a creature that looked like a mix between a dolphin and an octopus. It had large, intelligent eyes and moved through water instead of air. When it spoke, its words were translated by the ship's computer. Strange visitors from the distant stars, the alien said. I am Ambassador Kent Lowe of the Nexari people. We have watched your battle with great amazement. You fought for us even though you do not know us. Why? Captain Jiang thought for a moment. How could he explain human nature to an alien? Because it was the right thing to do, he said simply. The alien was quiet for a long time. The Galactic Council told us that your species was too violent to join our community, but today we have seen that your violence is directed at those who would harm the innocent. We welcome you, humans of Earth. It was the first time aliens had spoken directly to humans, and they were saying, thank you. But Captain Jiang knew this was just the beginning. The bioships had retreated, but they were still out there. And somewhere, in space, other worlds were still crying for help. Ambassador Kent Lowe, Jiang said, can you tell us where to find these Void Reapers? We want to stop them from hurting anyone else. The alien's eyes grew sad. They are everywhere, Captain. They have been destroying worlds for 30 years. Many civilizations have already fallen. But perhaps with your help, we can finally fight back. Admiral Park's voice came over the radio. Captain Jiang, prepare for long-range communications. We need to contact Earth and tell them what we found here. As the human fleet regrouped and began repairs, Captain Jiang looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, the Void Reapers were planning their next attack. But now they would face something they had never faced before. They would face humanity. 3 days after the battle at Altair, Admiral Park Min-ho received a message that changed everything he thought he knew about the galaxy. A massive alien fleet was approaching their position. But these were not Void Reapers. These were the remains of the Galactic Council's navy. Captain Yang stood next to Admiral Park on the bridge of the Indomitable as the alien ships came into view. There were over 200 vessels, but they looked beaten and damaged. Some ships had holes in their sides, others were missing entire sections. "These are the survivors," said Navigation Officer Bei So-young. "This is all that is left of the Galactic Council fleet." The largest alien ship was 3 times bigger than any human vessel. It looked like it was made of living crystal that changed colors in the starlight. A message came from this ship in perfect English. "Human fleet, this is Admiral Zyph 9 of the Council Defense Force. Request permission to come aboard your flagship for emergency meeting." Admiral Park had never met an alien before. None of the humans had, except for the brief conversation with the Nexari. But he knew this meeting would decide the future of both humanity and the galaxy. "Permission granted, Admiral Zyph 9. We will meet in our main conference room." An hour later, Admiral Park waited in the conference room with his best officers. Captain Yang was there, along with Chief Science Officer Lim Junsu and Intelligence Officer Quan Sora. They did not know what to expect. The door opened and something impossible walked in. Admiral Zyph 9 looked like a person made of living diamond. She was tall and thin, with 6 arms and eyes that glowed like stars. When she moved, light danced across her crystal skin. "Greetings, humans of Earth," she said. Her voice sounded like music played on glass instruments. "I am Admiral Zyph 9 of the Crystalline Republic. I speak for what remains of the Galactic Council." Admiral Park stood up. "Welcome aboard, Admiral. I am Park Minho, commander of Earth's battle fleet." Zyph 9's eyes grew brighter. "Your reputation has already spread across the galaxy, Admiral. Park, in 3 days you have done what we could not do in 30 years. You have stopped a Reaper attack." "30 years?" Captain Jang asked. "You have been fighting these creatures for 30 years?" The crystal alien's light grew dimmer, like she was becoming sad. "Yes, Captain. The Void Reapers came from outside our galaxy 30 years ago. At first we thought they were just raiders. We were wrong." She waved one of her hands and a holographic image appeared in the air. It showed a map of the galaxy with thousands of points of light. But many of the lights were red and some were completely dark. "Each light represents a star system with intelligent life," Zyph 9 explained. "White lights are safe worlds. Red lights are worlds under attack. Black lights are worlds that no longer exist." Admiral Park counted the black lights. There were over 200 of them, 200 star systems, billions, maybe trillions of dead aliens. "How is that possible?" asked Science Officer Lim Junsu. "How can anyone destroy entire star systems?" "The Void Reapers do not just kill," Zyph 9 said. "They consume. They take everything from a world, the people, the animals, the plants, even the minerals in the ground. Then they use what they take to make more of themselves." Intelligence Officer Quan Sora leaned forward. "You mean they eat entire planets?" "Worse than that. They convert everything into bioships like the ones you fought at Altair. Every Reaper ship you destroyed used to be someone's homeworld." The room became very quiet. The humans were trying to understand what this meant. The bioships they had fought were not just weapons. They were made from dead worlds and dead people. Captain Jang felt sick. "How many Reaper ships are there?" "We estimate over 10,000 major bioships, plus millions of smaller ones. And they grow stronger every day." Admiral Park walked to the star map. "Admiral Zyph 9, why did the Galactic Council never contact Earth? We could have been fighting together all this time." The crystal alien's light dimmed even more. "That is a difficult question to answer, Admiral Park. The truth is the Council was afraid of your species." "Afraid of us? Why?" 300 years ago, when humans first developed space travel, the Council sent scout ships to observe your world. What they found frightened them. Humans were always fighting. Wars covered your planet. Your weapons grew more powerful every year." Chief Science Officer Lim shook his head. "So you decided we were too dangerous?" "The Council believed that humans would destabilize galactic peace." Your species seemed to enjoy conflict. The decision was made to quarantine Earth until humanity became more peaceful. Admiral Park felt anger rising in his chest. So while we were isolated, the Void Reapers were destroying the galaxy, and you never thought to ask for our help. The Council believed their technology was superior. We had been at peace for thousands of years. We thought we could handle any threat. Sci-Fi's voice became very quiet. We were wrong. Captain Jang stood up. What changed? Why did you finally send us that distress signal? Desperation, Sci-Fi said simply. 6 months ago, we lost the Centauri defense line. 50 worlds fell in 1 week. The Council realized we were going to lose this war unless something changed. Intelligence Officer Quan pulled up data on her computer. According to our analysis of Reaper technology, they learn from every battle. They adapt to new weapons very quickly. That is correct. Every tactic we used against them worked only once or twice. Then they would change their bioships to defend against it. We ran out of new ideas. But humans have not, Admiral Park said. We have been fighting each other for thousands of years. We know every dirty trick, every desperate strategy, every way to win when you are outnumbered. Sci-Fi's light grew, brighter again. Yes, in 3 days you have shown tactics we never considered. Ramming attacks, concentrated fire on weak points, sacrificing small ships to destroy large ones. The Reapers have never faced anything like human warfare. Science Officer Lim had been studying data from the battle at Altair. Admiral Sci-Fi, I have a question about these bioships. Our scans show they are controlled by some kind of central mind. Is that correct? Yes, the Reapers operate as a hive mind. All their ships are controlled by entities we call overmind nodes. Destroy an overmind and all the ships connected to it shut down. How many overminds are there? We believe there are 7 major overminds, each controlling thousands of bioships. But we have never been able to get close enough to one to destroy it. Admiral Park studied the galactic map again. The red and black lights seemed to form a pattern, moving slowly toward one corner of the galaxy, toward Earth. Admiral Sci-Fi, these attacks are not random. The Reapers are moving in a specific direction. Yes, they are heading toward the galactic core, where most of our major worlds are located. But they are also moving outward, toward the rim worlds. Captain Jang pointed to Earth's location on the map. Including our sector, the Reapers will reach your area of space within 2 years, assuming they maintain their current pace. Admiral Park made a decision that would change the course of the war. Then we stop them before they get there. Admiral Sci-Fi, I propose a joint offensive. Human tactics combined with Council technology. Admiral Park, I appreciate your enthusiasm, but the Council fleet is too damaged to mount an offensive. We have been fighting a defensive war for so long, we barely remember how to attack. Then it's time you learned, Captain Jang said. Humans do not fight defensive wars. We take the fight to the enemy. Intelligence Officer Quan had been analyzing the Reaper movement patterns. Admiral, I think I see something. The Reapers always attack the strongest worlds first. They want the most advanced technology and the most developed planets. That makes sense, Sci-Fi said. They gain more resources from advanced worlds. But that also makes them predictable, Quan continued. If we can figure out which world they will attack next, we can be waiting for them. Science Officer Lim nodded. And if we can destroy one of these overminds, we might shut down thousands of bioships at once. Admiral Park looked around the room. Gentlemen, ladies, I think we have the beginning of a plan. Admiral Sci-Fi, are you willing to try something that has never been attempted before? The crystal alien's light pulsed in what might have been excitement. Admiral Park, my people have been dying for 30 years. I am willing to try anything. Good, because we are going to teach these Void Reapers something they have never learned before. We are going to show them what happens when you threaten species that fight back. Captain Jang smiled for the first time since the battle at Altair. When do we start? Right now, Admiral Park said. Contact Earth Command. Tell them we need every ship they can send. And Admiral Zyph-9, I want to meet with every council species that still has ships. It's time to stop running and start fighting. As the meeting ended, Admiral Park looked out at the stars. The Void Reapers had been winning this war for 30 years. They thought they understood their enemies. But they had never faced humanity before. And humans had one advantage that no other species seemed to have. Humans never gave up. 2 weeks after the meeting with Admiral Zyph-9, the combined human and alien fleet faced its first real test. Intelligence reports showed that a massive Reaper force was heading toward Kepler 442b, an industrial world with over 2 billion inhabitants. Captain Zhang stood on the bridge of the Defiance and watched the most unusual fleet in galactic history prepare for battle. Human ships flew alongside vessels that looked like floating cities, living trees, and geometric crystals. The alien ships were beautiful, but they moved slowly and carefully. The human ships moved like hungry wolves. Captain, said communications. Officer Park Dong-hyuk, Admiral Park wants all ship commanders to report to the flagship for final briefing. An hour later, Zhang sat in the Indomitable's main conference room with 50 other captains. Half were human. The other half were aliens, from 12 different species. The aliens looked nervous. The humans looked eager. Admiral Park stood at the front of the room next to Admiral Zyph-9. Behind them was a holographic image of Kepler 442b and the Reaper fleet approaching it. The enemy will arrive at Kepler 442b in 18 hours, Park said. Intelligence estimates show over 800 bioships, including 3 major vessels that might contain overmined nodes. Captain Moon Ji-hoon of the Eagle raised his hand. Admiral, what are our orders? Destroy them all. The alien captains looked shocked. Captain Vorth Ka of the plant-like Silvani spoke up. Admiral Park, with respect, that is impossible. 800 bioships would require at least 2,000 vessels to defeat using standard council tactics. Good thing we are not using council tactics, said Captain Lee Byung-hun of the Thunder. Admiral Zyph-9's crystal body dimmed. Captain, Lee, please explain what you mean. Admiral Park walked to the holographic display. For 30 years, the Council has fought a defensive war. You wait for the Reapers to attack, then try to minimize damage while protecting civilians and infrastructure. Of course, said Captain Nex Prime of the robotic synthesis. The goal is to preserve life and maintain civilization. The goal is to win, said Captain Oh Seung-hoon of the Lightning. Everything else comes after winning. Park pointed to the planet on the display. Kepler 442b has 12 major cities and thousands of factories. The Council would try to defend each city individually, spreading their forces thin. That is the moral approach, argued Captain Vorth Ka. That is the losing approach, Park replied. Humans fight differently. We evacuate the civilians, then we turn the entire planet into a battleground. The alien captains started talking in worried voices. Turn a planet into a battleground? Destroy cities to win battles? This went against everything the Council believed. Admiral Zyph-9 raised one of her 6 hands for silence. Admiral Park, please explain your strategy. Park touched the holographic controls. The image changed to show human battle formations. First, we evacuate all civilians from the major cities. Every transport ship we have will work on this. That will take days, protested Captain Nex Prime. It will take 16 hours, said Captain Zhang, because we will use every ship, military and civilian, to move people. What about the factories and infrastructure? We blow them up, said Captain Lee Byung-hoon simply. The alien captains were horrified. Captain Vorth Ka stood up in anger. You cannot destroy entire cities. Those factories took decades to build. And they will take decades to rebuild, Admiral, Park said calmly. But if we lose this battle, there will be no one left to rebuild anything. Captain Oh Seung-hoon walked to the display. The Reapers expect us to defend fixed positions. They will send their bioships to specific targets. But if we destroy those targets ourselves, the Reapers have nothing to attack. Then what do they attack? Asked Captain Nex Prime. Us, said Captain Moon Ji-hoon with a smile. They have to come after our ships, and that is where we want them. Admiral Park changed the display again. Now it showed the space around Kepler 442b divided into killing zones. We divide our fleet into hunter groups. Each group has human ships for speed and firepower, plus council ships for shields and support. The Reapers will try to overwhelm us with numbers, added Admiral Zeph 9, who was beginning to understand the human strategy. Let them try, said Captain Jang. When they bunch up to attack one group, the other groups hit them from behind. What? If they split up to chase all our groups? Then we pick them off one by one, said Captain Lee. Humans have been using pack hunting tactics for millions of years. Fleet Commander Cho Hyun-woo stood up. He was an old soldier who had fought in every major human conflict for 30 years. Captains, let me explain something about human warfare. We do not fight to protect buildings or factories. We fight to destroy the enemy's ability to fight. Back. But the cost, Captain Vorthka protested. The cost of losing is higher, Cho replied. The Reapers have destroyed 200 worlds because the Council was not willing to accept the cost of total war. Admiral Park looked around the room. I understand this is difficult for Council species to accept. You have lived in peace for thousands of years, but peace only works when everyone wants peace. The Reapers do not want peace. They want to consume everything. Captain Nex Prime's electronic voice was quiet. Admiral Park, if we fight your way, how many of our people will die? I do not know, Park answered honestly. But I know how many will die if we fight the Council way. All of them. The room was silent for a long moment. Then Admiral Zeph 9 spoke. Admiral Park, the Council fleet will follow your orders. We have tried our way for 30 years. It is time to try something new. 18 hours later, the evacuation of Kepler 442b was complete. 2 billion civilians had been moved to safe worlds using every transport ship in the sector. The planet's major cities stood empty. Captain Jang watched from orbit as human engineers planted explosives in the largest factories. This feels wrong, said Navigation Officer Bae So-young. Winning often feels wrong at first, Jang replied. But losing feels worse. The Reaper fleet arrived exactly when intelligence predicted. 800 bioships emerged from hyperspace and immediately headed for the planet's major cities. But when they got there, they found nothing but empty buildings. Then the buildings exploded. All hunter groups. This is Admiral Park, came the voice over the radio. The Reapers are confused. They do not know what to attack. Time to show them. Hunter, Group Alpha, led by Captain Jang, struck first. 12 human ships and 8 council vessels hit the Reaper formation from the side. The bioships tried to turn and fight, but Hunter Group Beta attacked from the other side. This is working, called Captain Moon Ji-hoon. The Reapers do not know which way to turn. But the Reapers learned quickly. They stopped trying to attack the planet and focused all their attention on the human and council ships. The bioships formed into 3 large groups and began hunting the smaller human formations. Hunter Group Delta is under heavy attack, reported Captain Oh Sung-hoon. We need support. Negative, Admiral Park replied. Keep moving. Do not let them pin you down. This was the hardest part of human tactics for the Council species to understand. When attacked, their instinct was to form defensive formations and fight back directly. Human instinct was to run away and attack from a different angle. This feels like cowardice, complained Captain Vorthka over the radio. This is strategy, Captain Lee Byung-hun replied, as his ship Thunder led 3 bioships into a trap set by Hunter Group Gamma. The battle raged for 6 hours. Both sides lost ships, but the humans were winning. Every time the Reapers focused on one hunter group, two other groups would attack them from behind. The bioships could not adapt to this new style of fighting, but then something changed. 3. Massive bioships that had been hanging back suddenly moved forward. These ships were different from the others. They had thick armor and powerful weapons. More importantly, they seemed to be coordinating the other Reaper ships. "Admiral, I think those are the Overmind vessels," reported Intelligence Officer Quan. "Sora, all hunter groups focus fire on the 3 large ships," Park ordered. But the Overmind ships were protected by hundreds of smaller bioships. Every time a human formation got close, they were driven back by overwhelming firepower. Captain Zhang had an idea. "Admiral, request permission to try something crazy." "Define crazy, Captain. I want to ram one of those Overmind ships." The radio was silent for a moment. Then Admiral Park's voice came back. "Captain, that is suicide." "Maybe. But if we can destroy one Overmind, all the ships connected to it will shut down." "Captain Zhang," said Admiral Xife 9, "your ship cannot survive. A collision with an Overmind vessel." "No," Zhang agreed. "But our ship can get close enough to deliver a full missile load directly into its weak spots." Before anyone could stop him, Zhang ordered his ship toward the nearest Overmind vessel. The Defiance accelerated to maximum speed as bioships tried to intercept it. "All weapons, target their engines," called Weapons Officer Yu Jawan. Plasma cannons and missiles reached out from the Defiance and cleared a path through the smaller bioships. But the Overmind ship was firing everything it had at the approaching human vessel. "Hull breaches on all decks," reported Engineer Han Kyungmin. "We cannot take much more of this." "Almost there," Zhang replied. The Overmind ship filled the entire front screen now. It was massive, like a living asteroid covered in weapons and armor. 3 months after the victory at Kepler 442b, Captain Moon Ji-hoon stood in the briefing room of his carrier Eagle and looked at the most ambitious military plan in galactic history. On the holographic display was Proxima Centauri, humanity's closest stellar neighbor. But the planet that once held a peaceful research colony was now something from a nightmare. The Void Reapers had turned Proxima Centauri into a breeding ground. "Intelligence reports show the planet is covered in biofactories," said Chief Science Officer Lim Junsu. "The Reapers are using the planet's resources to build new ships and grow new creatures." Captain Moon studied the images. Where green forests and blue oceans used to be, there were now vast organic structures that pulsed with alien life. Tentacles the size of mountains reached up from the planet's surface. Strange lights flickered under a sky that had turned the color of blood. "How many bioships are defending the planet?" asked Marine Colonel Shin Woo-jin. "Over 1,000, Intelligence Officer Quan Sora replied. "Plus ground-based defenses that we have never seen before. The Reapers have had 2 years to fortify this world, and we have to take it back," said Captain Moon. "Because if we do not, they will use it as a base to attack Earth and the Council worlds. The assault on Proxima Centauri would be the first major offensive operation of the war. Admiral Park had chosen Captain Moon to lead it because the Eagle carried the most advanced fighters and marines in the human fleet." "Captain," said his communications officer Choi Min-seo, "Admiral Park wants to speak with you privately." Moon walked to his personal quarters and activated the secure communication system. Admiral Park's face appeared on the screen, looking tired but determined. "Captain Moon, I want to make sure you understand what you are facing. This is not like the battle at Kepler. The Reapers have had time to prepare defenses. They know we are coming." "I understand, Admiral, but someone has to be first. That is why I chose you. But, Captain, if this assault fails, we lose more than ships. We lose the momentum we gained at Kepler. The Council species are just starting to believe they can win this war." Moon nodded. "We will not fail, sir." "I know you will not. But be careful. Intelligence suggests the Reapers have new weapons. Things we have never seen before." 2 days later, the combined assault fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Proxima Centauri system. Captain Moon commanded 50 ships, 20 human vessels, and 30 from various council species. It was a small force compared to the 1,000 bioships defending the planet. "Captain," said Navigation Officer Bae So-young, "long-range sensors are picking up massive energy readings from the planet's surface. Whatever they are building down there, it is big." "Any sign of the defenders?" "Not yet, sir. The bioships seem to be hiding behind the planet." This was unusual. In previous battles, the Reapers had always attacked immediately, but now they were waiting. Captain Moon did not like it. "All ships, maintain attack formation. Launch all fighters." 200 human and alien fighter craft poured out of the carriers. They spread out in a protective screen around the main fleet as it moved toward the planet. "Fighter Squadron Alpha, this is Lieutenant Yang Dong-hyuk," came a voice over the radio. "I am seeing movement on the planet's surface, large objects rising from the biofactories." Captain Moon switched his main screen to show the fighter pilots a view. What he saw made his blood freeze. Massive tentacles were rising from the planet like giant snakes. But these tentacles had mouths full of teeth, and they were reaching toward space. "All fighters, pull back," Moon ordered. "Those things are trying to grab our ships." But he was too late. One of the tentacles stretched out like a whip and wrapped around a council fighter. The pilot screamed as his ship was crushed and pulled down toward the planet. "New contacts," called Weapons Officer Ryu Nayeon. "Bioships coming around the planet. Lots of them." The Reaper fleet appeared from behind Proxima Centauri like a swarm of angry insects. But these bioships looked different from the ones they had fought before. They had thicker armor and strange new weapons that glowed with purple light. "All ships, evasive maneuvers," Captain Moon ordered. "Do not let them surround us." The battle began badly for the human and council forces. The new Reaper weapons fired beams that went right through their shields. Several ships exploded before they could even return fire. "Captain," reported Engineer Han Kyung-min, "those purple weapons are some kind of energy drain. They are sucking power directly from our ships." "Then we fight without power," Moon replied. "All ships, emergency protocols. Switch to backup systems and prepare for close combat." This was where human tactics made the difference. While the Council ships tried to maintain distance and use their advanced weapons, the human vessels charged straight at the enemy. Captain Lee Byung-hun's ship Thunder led the charge, firing plasma cannons at point-blank range. "This is crazy," called Captain Vorth Ka of the Sylvanie. "We cannot win by ramming them." "Watch us," replied Captain Oh Sung-hoon as his destroyer. Lightning slammed into a bioship's side and began tearing it apart with mining lasers. But the real breakthrough came when Chief Science Officer Lim Jun-soo made a discovery. "Captain Moon, I have been analyzing the purple weapons. They work by creating an energy link between our ships and theirs." "What does that mean?" "It means the link works both ways. If we can reverse the energy flow, we can drain their power, instead of them draining ours." Engineer Choi Min-seo worked frantically at her controls. "I think I can modify our weapons to do that, but I need 5 minutes." "You have got 2 minutes," Moon replied, as another bioship tried to grab the Eagle with its tentacles. The breakthrough came just in time. Choi managed to reverse the energy flow on the Eagle's main weapons. When the bioships tried to drain the carrier's power, they ended up giving their own energy to the human ship instead. "It works!" Choi called out. "I am sending the modification to all ships." Within minutes, the entire human fleet had adapted to the new Reaper weapons. The bioships that had been draining power from human vessels suddenly found themselves being drained instead. "All ships, concentrate fire on the planets. Surface defenses," Captain Moon ordered. "We need to destroy those tentacles before we can land Marines." The combined fleet turned its weapons on the massive organic structures rising from Proxima Centauri. Plasma cannons and missiles struck the tentacles, cutting them down like giant trees. Green blood rained from the sky as the biofactories began to burn. "Landing zones are clear," reported Marine Colonel Shin Woo-jin. "Requesting permission to begin ground assault. Permission granted. Take that planet back." The Marine transports dropped through Proxima Centauri's bloody atmosphere like falling stars. What they found on the surface was worse than anyone had imagined. The Reapers had not just conquered the planet, they had changed it. The ground was covered in a thick organic carpet that moved and breathed. Strange creatures the size of buildings wandered between the biofactories, and everywhere there were the remains of the human colonists who had once lived here. "Colonel Shin," came Captain Moon's voice over the radio. "What is your situation?" "Hell, sir," Shin replied as his Marines fought their way toward the largest biofactory. "The Reapers have turned this entire planet into a living weapon. The Yachi." Ground assault was brutal. The Marines had to fight not just bioships and Reaper creatures, but the planet itself. The organic carpet tried to digest their boots. Poisonous gas came up from cracks in the ground, and the biofactories defended, themselves with weapons grown from living bone. But humans had one advantage. They were very good at destroying things. Marine Sergeant An Sohee led her squad into the heart of the largest biofactory carrying explosive charges that Engineer Choi had specially designed. "These bombs should disrupt the organic matrix holding this place together," she reported. "Plant them and get out," Colonel Shin ordered. "We will detonate them from orbit." It took 6 hours of fighting, but the Marines managed to plant explosives in all the major biofactories. As the human forces pulled back to their ships, Captain Moon gave the order to detonate. The explosions lit up Proxima Centauri's sky like a second sunrise. One by one, the biofactories collapsed in on themselves. The organic carpet covering the planet began to wither and die. The strange creatures that had been wandering the surface fell over and stopped moving. "The planet's bio-infrastructure is collapsing," reported Science Officer Lim. "Without the factories to sustain them, all the Reaper modifications are breaking down." In space, the defending bioships suddenly became confused and disorganized. Whatever intelligence had been controlling them from the planet's surface was now dead. "All ships, finish them off," Captain Moon ordered. The remaining Reaper vessels were destroyed within an hour. The space around Proxima Centauri was filled with floating debris and the green blood of dead bioships. Captain Moon looked at his bridge crew. They were tired and scared, but they had won. "Damage report." 14 ships destroyed, reported Navigation Officer Bay. "Over 300 casualties, but we took the planet. And we learned something important," added Engineer Choi. "The Reapers are not as invincible as we thought. They can be beaten." A message came from Admiral Park on the Indomitable. "Captain Moon, outstanding work. You have proved that we can take planets back from the Reapers." The alarm bells that rang across Earth's orbital defense stations were different from any that had sounded before. These were not practice drills or warnings about asteroids. These alarms meant that the enemy had finally come home. Admiral Park. Minho stood in Earth Defense Command and watched the most terrifying sight in human history appear on his screens. The Void Reaper megafleet had just dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the solar system. 10,000 bioships of every size, from small fighters to massive dreadnoughts the size of moons. "Admiral," said Intelligence Officer Kwan Sora, her voice shaking, "long-range scans confirm the worst-case scenario. 7 overmined ships are leading the fleet. Every major Reaper intelligence is here." "They want to end this war by destroying us completely," Park said quietly. "How long until they reach Earth?" 72 hours at their current speed. Park activated the emergency communication system. "All Earth Defense Forces, this is Admiral Park. Red alert status across all sectors. This is not a drill. The Reapers are coming home." Within minutes, every human ship in the galaxy received the recall order. They were to abandon whatever missions they were on and return to defend Earth immediately. The great evacuation of the outer colonies began as civilian transports raced toward the inner system. President Song Minji called an emergency session of the World Council, but this time the meeting was held in the underground bunkers beneath the capital. Earth's leaders knew that in 72 hours, their planet might not exist. "Admiral Park," President Song said as she joined him in Defense Command, "what are our chances?" Park looked at the tactical display showing Earth's defenses. The planet was surrounded by weapon platforms, shield generators, and defense stations. The human fleet had grown to over 400 ships since the war began. But against 10,000 Reapers, it might not be enough. "Honestly, Madam President, we are outnumbered 25-1. In any normal battle, we would have no chance. But this is not a normal battle? No. This is a battle for Earth, and humans fight differently when they are defending their home." Captain Jang Tai-hyun arrived at Earth aboard the Defiance with his ship's hull scarred from a dozen battles across the galaxy. His crew had not seen their families in over a year, but they had volunteered to be the first line of defense. "Captain," said his communications officer Park Dong-hyuk, "my daughter just started school last month. She sent me a picture." Jang looked at the image of a smiling 6-year-old girl holding a drawing of her father's ship. "We will make sure she gets to finish school, Park. I promise you that." All across Earth, similar conversations were happening. Families were saying goodbye to their loved ones in the military. Children too young to understand were asking why their parents looked so worried. Elderly people who remembered the nuclear wars were preparing for the worst, but something else was happening too. Something the Reapers had not expected. "Admiral," reported Fleet Commander Cho Hyun-woo, "we are receiving volunteers from the civilian population. Cargo ship captains want to be armed with weapons. Passenger liner crews are asking to be converted into medical ships. Even the asteroid miners are coming back to help." Dr. An Young-ho, who ran the planet's largest hospital, called Defense Command with an offer. "Admiral Park, we are converting every medical facility on Earth into a trauma center. And my daughter So-hee just graduated from pilot training. She wants to fly in the defense fleet. Doctor, she is too young for combat duty. Admiral, with respect, everyone is too young for what is coming. But we are all going to fight anyway." The Reaper fleet crossed the orbit of Neptune and kept coming. Earth's long-range sensors showed that these bioships were different from any the humans had fought before. They were larger, more heavily armed, and they moved with a coordination that suggested direct control by the overminds themselves. "They have learned from our previous battles," observed Science Officer Lim Junsu. "These ships are designed specifically to counter human tactics." Captain Moon Ji-hoon arrived with the carrier Eagle and immediately began launching fighter squadrons. "All pilots, listen carefully. The enemy knows how we fight. They have adapted their ships to counter ramming attacks, close-range weapons, and pack hunting tactics." "Then how do we beat them?" asked Lieutenant Yang Dong-hyuk. "By doing something they do not expect," Moon replied. "By fighting like humans have never fought before." The first contact came when the Reaper fleet reached the orbit of Mars. Earth's outer defense stations opened fire with every weapon they had. Plasma cannons, quantum torpedoes, and fusion missiles reached across space to strike the approaching bioships. The weapons barely scratched them. "The Reapers have developed new armor," reported Weapons Officer Ryu Nyon. "Our standard weapons are not penetrating their defenses." But engineer Choi Min-seo had been working on something new. "Admiral, I have modified our mining lasers to operate at a different frequency. If we can get close enough, they should cut through the bioship armor." "How close?" "Point-blank range." Admiral Park made a decision that shocked even his own officers. "All ships prepare for ramming speed. We go in close and we hit them with everything we have." "Sir," protested Captain Oh Sung-hoon, "that is suicide against ships that size." "Maybe, but it is also the last thing they expect." The Battle of Earth began in earnest when the human fleet met the Reaper vanguard near the asteroid belt. 300 human ships charged straight into the teeth of 2,000 bioships. The space between Mars and Jupiter became a graveyard. "Captain, Lee Byung-hun's cruiser Thunder was one of the first to engage the enemy. "All weapons, concentrated fire on the lead bioship." The modified mining lasers cut deep into the creature's armor, spilling green blood into space. But the bioship was still alive, and it was angry. Tentacles the size of subway trains reached out and grabbed the Thunder, trying to crush it like an egg. "Engine room, emergency power to the weapons," Lee ordered. "Cut us free." The Thunder's lasers sliced through the tentacles, but more bioships were closing in. The human cruiser was outnumbered 10-1. "Captain," called his weapons officer, "we cannot take much more of this." "Then we make it count," Lee replied. He aimed his ship at the largest bioship and pushed the engines to maximum. "All hands, brace for impact!" The Thunder struck the bioship's weak point like a spear, punching completely through its body. Both ships exploded in a ball of fire. That lit up the asteroid belt. Similar sacrifices were happening all across the battle zone. Human ships rammed bioships that were 10 times their size. Fighter pilots crashed their craft into Reaper weak points. Marines boarded bioships with nothing but explosives and the determination to take as many enemies with them as possible. "We are losing too many ships," reported Fleet Commander Cho. "At this rate, we will not have anything left to defend Earth with." But Admiral Park had seen something in the battle that gave him hope. "Look at the Reaper formations. They are becoming more cautious. They did not expect us to fight this hard." The Reaper overminds had expected an easy victory. They had brought overwhelming force to crush humanity quickly. But the humans were not fighting like any species they had encountered before. Instead of retreating when outnumbered, the humans attacked harder. Instead of surrendering when facing death, they took their enemies with them. The bioships began to pull back, trying to maintain distance from the suicidal human vessels. This gave the Earth fleet the breathing room it needed. "All ships, fall back to Earth orbit," Park ordered. "We make our stand at home." The battered human fleet retreated to Earth's defensive perimeter. They had lost over half their ships, but they had also destroyed nearly 1,000 bioships. The Reapers were hurt, but they were still coming. Captain Jang brought the damaged Defiance into Earth orbit and saw something that made his heart swell with pride. The planet was surrounded by every ship that could fly: military vessels, civilian, transports, mining craft. Even luxury yachts had been fitted with weapons. "Captain," said his engineer Han Kyung-min, "I count over 2,000 ships in the defense fleet. Where did they all come from?" "Everywhere, sir. The asteroid belt, the outer colonies, even some that came from other star systems. Everyone wants to defend Earth. But the most amazing sight was on Earth itself. Every major city had been evacuated, but volunteers had stayed behind to operate the planetary defense systems. Dr. An Young-ho coordinated the medical response from his hospital, while his daughter, Lieutenant An So-hee, flew combat missions overhead. "All defense stations, this is Admiral Park," came the voice over the radio. "The Reapers will be here in 6 hours. This is our final battle. Fight well, and remember that we are not just defending Earth. We are defending the right of all species to exist free." The Reaper megafleet approached Earth like a dark storm cloud. 7 overmined ships, each the size of a small moon, led thousands of bioships toward humanity's homeworld. The largest overmind ship was so massive it had its own gravity field. "That must be the prime overmind," said Intelligence Officer Kwan, "the intelligence that controls all the others." The final battle began when the Reapers entered Earth's atmosphere. The planetary defense stations opened fire with weapons that had been building up power for 3 days. 5 years after the Battle of Earth, Ambassador Seo Hyun-bin walked through the halls of the new Galactic Assembly building on the moon. Through the great windows, he could see Earth spinning slowly below, its blue oceans and green continents, healed from the scars of war. The assembly building itself was a symbol of what the galaxy had become. Built with technology from 50 different species, it showed that cooperation was possible even between beings who had once been enemies. Today was a special day. Today, the Assembly would vote on the final version of the Galactic Defense Charter, the document that would govern how the galaxy protected itself from future threats. SEO entered the main chamber and took his place at the human delegation table. Around him sat representatives from every species in the galaxy. There was Admiral Zeph 9, her crystal body now decorated with honor marks for her service in the war. Captain Jang Tae-yun sat nearby, wearing the uniform of the new Galactic Defense Force. "The Assembly recognizes Ambassador CO of Earth," announced the speaker, a floating energy being from the Vortex Nebula. SEO stood up and walked to the center of the chamber. He had given many speeches since becoming Earth's ambassador, but this one was the most important. 5 years ago, he began, the Void Reapers nearly destroyed our galaxy. They succeeded because we were divided. Each species fought alone, using the same tactics, making the same mistakes. He gestured to the mixed crowd of aliens around him. But humanity did not fight alone. We fought alongside the Nexari in their oceans. We stood with the crystalline Republic in the void between stars. We learned from the Sylvani how to heal damaged worlds. And we learned from humans how to fight," added Captain Vorthka of the plant-like aliens. "Your species taught us that sometimes peace requires war and freedom requires sacrifice." SEO nodded. "That is the lesson we must never forget." The Charter. We vote on today is not just about military defense. It is about the idea that some things are worth fighting for. He activated a holographic display that showed the current state of the galaxy. Where once there had been red warning lights showing Reaper attacks, now there were green lights showing peaceful worlds. "The Void Reapers are gone," CO continued, "but we know that other threats will come. The universe is vast and dangerous. That is why we need the Defense Force." The Galactic Defense Force was Admiral Park's greatest achievement. It combined the best warriors from every species into a single military organization. Human tactics, crystalline technology, Nexari underwater, capabilities, and robotic engineering all worked together. But more than that, Seo said, we need to remember why we fight. We do not fight for conquest or glory. We fight to protect those who cannot protect themselves. Admiral Park, now the first Supreme Commander of the Galactic Defense Force, stood up to address the Assembly. He was older now, with gray hair and lines on his face from years of command, but his eyes still held the fire that had driven him to answer that first distress call. 5 years ago, Earth received a message asking for help, Park said. We could have ignored it. We could have said it was not our problem. Instead, we chose to act. He looked around the chamber at the faces of beings from 100 different worlds. Today, I ask you to make the same choice. Vote for the Charter. Choose to act when others need help. The vote was unanimous. Every species in the galaxy agreed to support the new Defense Force, but more importantly, they agreed to the principles that would guide it. Captain Jang, now an admiral in the Defense Force, watched the vote from the military section of the Assembly. Next to him sat Captain Moon, Captain Lee, and dozens of other veterans of the Reaper War. Admiral, said Captain Moon, do you think we made the right choice, giving up our human fleet to join this mixed force? Jang looked at the integrated crew tables where humans worked alongside aliens. Moon, look at Lieutenant Yang over there. He is training Nexari pilots in atmospheric combat. And Engineer Choi is teaching crystalline technicians about adaptive weapons. Your point? My point is that we are stronger together than we ever were apart. The Reapers conquered the galaxy because each species fought alone. That will never happen again. In the years since the war ended, the galaxy had changed in ways no one had expected. Trade between worlds had increased dramatically. Scientific cooperation had led to breakthroughs in medicine, engineering, and space travel. Art and culture flowed freely between species that had never spoken to each other before. But the biggest change was in how the galaxy thought about conflict. The old council had tried to avoid war at all costs. The new assembly understood that Sometimes war was necessary to preserve peace. The human doctrine has been adopted throughout the galaxy, reported Intelligence Officer Quan, who now ran the Defense Forces Analysis Division. Military preparedness on every world, rapid response, fleets, and most importantly, the willingness to help others. Dr. An Young-ho, who had become the galaxy's leading expert on post-war recovery, had helped rebuild dozens of worlds damaged by the Reapers. His daughter So-hee was now a squadron leader in the Defense Force, commanding pilots from 6 different species. The psychological healing is just as important as the physical rebuilding, he often told new reconstruction teams. These worlds need to know they are not alone. Engineer Choi Min-seo had become the Chief Technology Officer for the Defense Force. Her adaptive weapon systems were now standard equipment on every military vessel in the galaxy. But her greatest achievement was the development of early warning, networks that could detect threats before they became unstoppable. "We will never be caught off guard again," she promised the Assembly during her annual technology briefing. But perhaps the most important change was happening in schools across the galaxy. Children who had grown up during the war were now learning about cooperation and mutual defense as fundamental principles. On Earth, a young girl named Kim Nari sat in her history class and listened as her teacher explained the Reaper War. "Why did the humans help the aliens?" she asked. "They did not even know each other." "Because," the teacher replied, "sometimes strangers are just friends you have not met yet." The same lesson was being taught on Nexari water worlds in Crystalline, Crystal Cities, and in Sylvani forest communities. A generation was growing up that thought of the galaxy as one big community instead of separate, competing species. Ambassador Seo concluded his speech to the Assembly with words that would be remembered for centuries. "We have learned that the galaxy is not a collection of isolated worlds. It is a community. And in a community, everyone helps everyone. When one world is threatened, all worlds respond. When one species needs aid, all species provide it. This is not just military doctrine. This is how civilized beings live." As the Assembly session ended, delegates from across the galaxy mingled in the reception halls. Humans chatted with crystalline beings about space navigation. Aquatic aliens discussed underwater construction with plant-based life forms. Former enemies had become allies and friends. Admiral Park stood with Admiral Xife 9 on the observation deck, looking out at Earth. "Admiral Park," the crystal being said, "I owe your species an apology. The Council was wrong to fear humanity. Your violence was never the problem. The problem was our inability to understand that controlled violence in defense of others is the highest form of civilization." "We all learned from each other," Park replied. "Humans learned patience and cooperation from the Council. The Council learned determination and courage from humans. And together, we saved the galaxy." Captain Zhang joined them on the observation deck. In his hand was a communication device showing a message from Earth Defense Command. "Admiral Park," he said, "we just received a signal from outside the galaxy. Another distress call." Park and Exif 9 looked at him in surprise. "From where?" "A galaxy about 50,000 light-years away. They are under attack by something called the Shadow Swarm, and they are asking for help." Admiral Park looked out at the stars beyond Earth. Somewhere in the vast universe, another civilization was crying for help. Another species was facing extinction. "Admiral Xife 9, he said, "how long would it take to get a Defense Force fleet to that galaxy?" "With our new hyperspace drives? About 6 months." Park smiled. "Then we better get started." The galaxy learned to answer distress calls. Now it is time to teach the universe. As the 3 officers began planning humanity's first intergalactic mission, children across Earth looked up at the stars and dreamed of the day they could join the Defense Force. They dreamed of exploring new worlds, meeting new species, and helping those in need. The distress call that had once brought Earth into galactic society was now bringing the galaxy into universal society. And at the center of it all were the principles that humans had carried with them from their small blue world: courage in the face of danger, sacrifice for strangers, and the unshakable belief that some things are worth fighting for. The galaxy had learned that peace was not the absence of conflict. Peace was the presence of those willing to fight for justice. And as long as beings like Admiral Park, Captain Jang, and Ambassador Seo were willing to answer the call for help, the universe would never face darkness alone. The stars themselves seemed brighter, knowing that somewhere among them heroes were ready to fight for the light.